Hey guys, as promised, and hopefully you can hear me. I'm using my Air Buds, my Apple, whatever you call them. I have no idea. AirPods, not buds, um, for the first time. But I wanted to do a really quick, um, urgent education before it's time for me and my hubby to go out to eat. Okay, so the urgent education, the idea behind it is to educate people on um, I guess you would say our founding documents, some of the things that are going on in our country that are putting our country in danger of really being taken over by global elitists, but also the plans to slowly erode morality to the point where we will accept a form of government that is not the original government of God. So, one thing to understand as a believer, but even just an American, is that when they came over, the pilgrims came over from the Mayflower or on the Mayflower, and they landed in Plymouth, they made a covenant to God and they chose God and they set this land apart for God. So the whole idea of the Bible, of God, of the founding documents that were all encapsulating previous documents and previous colonies uh, lends to the idea that America was founded on Christian principles and founded on belief in God. Okay. So, with this belief in God, everything was set in place to foster a government that provided liberty. Liberty is freedom plus morality, meaning I'm free to do anything. I can choose to do anything. But if I have morals, I am not going to do anything that will violate God's laws, which are love Him, love your neighbor as yourself. And I'm not going to do anything that would violate or infringe upon the rights of other people. And so, with that, just briefly, the whole idea that America was founded on the principles of freedom plus morality equaling liberty. The goal of men who do not know God with a fallen nature is to replace God with government. And so the idea that mankind is inherently good is a fallacy that can lead to a lot of problems, which we're seeing. So, our founding fathers understood that man in himself is not inherently good. They are not angels. Therefore, morality must be taught in schools, morality must be taught in homes. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from that. And so, I'm going to spend probably the rest of my life teaching on such things. So, I don't want to get all in this one short video, but let me get this in there. The proper flow of authority, especially in government, America's government, is number one, God as the creator. And I've got some notes here that I'll be referring to. So if God is our creator, that means that our rights, our natural rights, inherent rights, come from Him. They do not come from documents. They do not come from the Constitution. They do not come from the Declaration of Independence. Our rights are inherent. So no one gave them to us. God gave them to us. Okay, so no man can take them away. That's the whole idea that the founding fathers had. Then from that place of God being the creator and of mankind in heaven and earth, then man was given dominion over all of the earth, the things in it, the creeping things, all of that. And then society is next. Society was created by man. So we basically kind of congregate based on interests and likenesses. And so a society is basically a community, a group of people that come together by like associations. Okay. And so from there comes government because government was created by society. So the proper flow of authority is God, then man, man created society, and then society created government. So hopefully you see that government is on the bottom of the totem pole, but you have to have some form of government because of mankind's fallen condition. Okay, so again, the law of liberty is that I cannot control another person. Therefore, you have to have morality. Our founding fathers said that the only way our system of government will work is if it is ruled and I guess you would say ruled by people who have morality. If you get rid of morality, then our society will crumble. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Get God out of the schools, get God out of the courtroom, get God out of everything because we don't want him involved. We want to do what we want to do. And so we're actually in a Psalm 2 situation. And it's important to understand that morality can be taught even if the person does not know God. You know, there's virtues, courage, freedom, forgiveness. There are things that need to be taught to children, whether the parents know Jesus or don't know Jesus. So this is a society-wide thing that needs to be restored, not just within the Christian home. Okay, now the Antichrist flow of government is government or authority is government first, then society, then man, then God. So what an Antichrist government wants to do is they want government to replace God. That is socialism. So everything is paid for, all of your needs are met by the government. The exchange is your worship and allegiance to the government. Okay, so here's the deal: the government should never replace God. Our Constitution does not in any way need to be done away with. It is not a living document, a living, breathing document. It is set in stone, and it needs to remain so in order to protect our rights. But here's the other thing. So the Declaration of Independence says that government is formed for one purpose: to secure our inherent natural rights. Now, let me go over to these notes really quick, and we're going to talk about the pursuit of happiness. I have learned some things about that that are pretty interesting, but I need to open up this document here on state sovereignty. So let me see if I have it up yet. Nope. So this is fascinating. A lot of us think that we were formed as a nation, and this is what I'm going to end on, that we were formed as a nation when we did our Declaration of Independence. Actually, there was a declaration that was done before then. Let's see, I got Article 5, here it is, that was called the Lee Resolution. And the Lee Resolution is what created states. So before the Lee Resolution, we were actually colonies. And this resolution was ratified on July 2nd of 1776. So a Richard Henry Lee, a delegate for the colony of Virginia, proposed the Lee Resolution, and this is the quote that's important. He said, "Resolved that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states that are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved." Now, I want you to notice he said the state of Great Britain. So in the founding fathers' day, Great Britain was a state, Germany was a state, any country was a state. So what he's saying is that the colonies were now severing our ties as colonies to the state of Great Britain and any political connection, and that it is expedient forthwith to make the most effectual measures for forming foreign alliances, that a plan of confederation be prepared and transmitted to the respective colonies for their consideration and approbation. So this is what they're saying. They're saying, okay, we're no longer going to be colonies subject to the state of Great Britain. Instead, we are going to create a federation of states. So the colonies will now be called states versus colonies. We're now going to create a federation of states, and they then had to meet to create the Declaration and then also the Articles of Confederation, which we'll get into that later. But here's the deal. This is what I want you to get, because we're discussing authority, the proper flow. God's flow of authority, the Antichrist flow of authority, and now I want to take you to America's flow of authority. The states were created before anything else. The states were created by the people for the people. So once they had this resolution, then all the different colonies became states. Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Philadelphia, New York, etc., etc. If they viewed countries as states that were sovereign, then you have to understand that in America, the states are sovereign. So we're like little countries with our own constitutions, our own governments, etc. Okay? But we decided to come together as a confederation and become the United States of America. So the people voted for this Lee resolution to be called ratified, meaning they adopted that resolution, and the states were born July 2nd, 1776. Then the next step of the founding fathers, because they had to follow a legal process, the next step of the founding fathers was the Declaration of Independence. That was the purpose, the sole purpose, the only purpose ever of government, is to secure the rights of the people. Now, here's what this means. In America, here's the authority. The greatest authority rests with we the people. Then, underneath we the people are our states. So we elect people to represent us in our state governments, which our states are composed of cities and counties. Okay, so for people that rule or that have positions of government in cities, states, and counties, they need to understand we're not your children. We're not for you to tell us what to do, and we're not for you to control what we think. We elected you. We gave you power to represent us. And if you're not sure what we want, then you probably need to ask us. Okay? So then you have the states. Then the states, the Confederation, the United States, created the Constitution, which took a lot of work because people were nervous about it. The Constitution was done in 1789, if I'm not mistaken. And that was to give the legal framework, the compact between the states. They wanted to give a legal framework, produce a product. That product is the federal government. So you've got us, we the people, you've got the states, and then you have the federal government. Do you notice that the federal government has the least amount of authority? Okay? So we've got to understand the proper structure of government in this country, because it's gone where it's flipped. Now everybody thinks the federal government has the most power. Well, because of a lack of education and ignorance of our history and how this country formed itself and was founded, the federal government does have more power. And it's time for the people to be urgently educated and understand we've got to take that power back. And the way you do that is peaceful noncompliance, urgent education, and spreading the word. So please share this video. We're setting a proper flow of authority. It is we the people, the states, the federal government. And real quick, in the federal government, the three branches, you've got the executive, you've got the judicial, and you've got the, oh, good grief, executive, legislative. Good man. Okay, the least powerful of the three branches is the judicial. And yet everybody is having to go to court to force the federal government to stop stepping on the rights of we the people. Does that make sense? And it shouldn't be that way. So anyway, we're gonna dive into this stuff. I just wanted to give you some quick information, some quick sound bites here, and dig in. And the place you want to start with is your own state constitution, because if you ever find yourself in front of the Supreme Court, the first thing they will ask you is, did you follow your state constitution? If you skipped your state constitution and went straight to the Constitution, your case will probably be thrown out. So start studying the rights that are supposed to be protected by our own government, by your state constitution. Remember, a piece of paper does not give you your rights. God gave you your rights. Okay? So until next week, urgent education, proper flow of authority.